Yes, good morning everyone. I'm as cheerful as you might be, and welcome to this session of today's class. I hope you might have gone through this chapter several times, and as we are going through, I think almost every line, if not lines, then paragraphs we have already taken, and considering all those paragraphs, we are just going ahead with the explanation. There are one or two things, of course, I mentioned over here, have some significance. And I think if you can make use of those things, it would be very useful. One is, of course, while teaching, I always make a reference to this kind of things. But I wish put little effort to learn language while we are actually learning. So we are at this moment at page number 33, and we had finished in the last class up to where we just wanted to know that the doctor Sadao was about to perform the surgery for the American prisoner of war. American prisoner of war had suffered injury because of some gun was shot at him. Bullet was shot at him, and he had survived that injury of bullet on his back. And you see the picture on page number 33, you see here this American soldier lying on the bed, and it seems that there are blood stains on his back, and Sadao is operating on him, and this girl Hana is expressing her you can say disgust or sickness because of this condition of the American fellow over there. His blood is coming out of the wound. Freshly is it coming out because Sadao had to somewhere press it. And just we'll now proceed after that. The more important things now wherever would come, I would refer to those lines, and then you can pay attention to it. So in the background, we already had Sadao was about to perform surgery, and he had asked Hana to give anesthetic. Actually, she was not so willing to do because according to her, she had not done it earlier. But Sadao says it's not so difficult. It's so you have to do it, and then somehow she manages, giving that anesthetic to this fellow, because without anesthetic, if they had performed the surgery, surely that wounded soldier would have died, because it gives otherwise also enough of pain for someone to just bear, impossible to bear. Similarly, in this condition of his, where the wound was already old one, and he had his wound was already struck upon different objects, and later on you can also say, because he was there traveling, and he must be swimming there in the water in order to reach the shore of the sea. So somewhere even his wound must have become a little softer, tender it must have become, and because of that, as soon as Sadao had put his fingers on the back of the American soldier, immediately the fresh blood started oozing out of it, and anesthesia was something therefore quite crucial. So somehow she managed actually giving that anesthesia, and surgery was about to get complete. Now next comes is the recovery, the stage of recovery. For some days, as this American soldier must have remained in their house, so they might have thought of various things as to how to keep that fellow at home, and whether it would be safe for him again, because now the servants were already quarreling on that particular issue. So all that you will find on page number 34, especially about the preparation for operation and how it actually took place. All that you are going to just know in page number 34. And if you see page number 35, the important lines I feel they were important here were like when this man was, being operated on, and his fingers, doctor's fingers were put there on his fresh wound. Immediately, it seemed that he had screamed in pain. In pain, he had expressed some words, and somewhere there you will find in the middle of the page number 35 says, "Guts," he muttered, choking. "They got my guts, Sadao." Sadao, Hana cried sharply. "Hush," Sadao said. And then the man sank again in silence of so profound that Sadao took up his wrist, hitting the touch of it. Yes, there was still a pulse, so faint, so feeble, but enough. If he wanted the man to live, to give hope. This means Sadao, of course, he was saving the life of this American soldier, but at the same time, that thought would always, trouble him. This fellow is an American soldier, and we are on fighting terms with each other's country, and then what should I do? So whatever I am doing, just minimal I should do. I should not do maximum for this man. And when this operation was being performed and this fellow screamed in pain, Sadhuben had to, touch him. He actually hated that touch, but he did it. Just light touch did he, touch of his hand he put on his body and made him just soothe for some time. But certainly, I do not want this man to live, he thought. That means on his mind, the thought was already going on whether it was right to save the life of this man. And somewhere that thought was very strong. He's just trying to save this man, but it in a long run, he was somewhere, or in the course of his thought, he was not very so happy with whatever was he doing for that man. And he, in the back of his mind, he was always wanting that this man should not live. But as a doctor, there was going to be a clash of two thoughts, or two dividing thoughts and opinions, and therefore this man ultimately was operated on. But certainly that thought was there in both of their minds, in the mind of Sadao and also in the mind of Hana, that they were doing something which they should not have done. But many times such kind of dilemma, or some kind of this kind of situation, indecisive kind of situation comes in life, when we will have to give a thought, and a long thought, wherein we just think pros and cons of everything, and whether sometimes we are very much unwilling also for certain thing, but we just allow, let this particular thing happen. So same thing had happened with them. And again on page number 35, using from the bottom, the last but one paragraph, "This man will live in spite of all," she said to Hannah and sighed. Suppose we compare last two statements which I read to you. The first one is, "But certainly I do not want this man to live." And the next one is the last but one paragraph, "This man will live in spite of all," he said to Hannah and sighed. So though it was that was in their knowledge that the man had suffered all those injuries, yet it was their opinion that in spite of all these difficulties, obstacles and problems, this man is going to survive anyhow. Like we sometimes say, it is a destiny. It appears in some kind of accident that one who met with an accident might not survive, but to everyone's surprise, we get a news the next day that that fellow, instead of sustaining those many injuries, survived. Though all his bones are broken, still survives. It is all one's destiny. Unless we have been, told by our elderly people several times, unless the time comes, the Almighty also does not call us. So He has sent us for a specific time with a specific purpose, and as long as we are trying to work on the purpose, so the Almighty will not take you back. Maybe here, through this, what we learn is the doctor's duty, the doctor's heart, or you can say the noble profession of the doctor. eh, they would put themselves in a kind of difficulty or danger, but if they see patient in front of them, they would definitely try to heal that, even if that fellow turns out to be by some or the other way their enemy. Yet they would not mind all that, and they would just see to it that that fellow is given life back. So this man will live in spite of all, he said to Hannah, and cite page number 36 now. On top, Hannah felt compelled to apologize, and she herself served in, for none of the servants would enter the room. Here, what we come to know is, he, right after the operation, as he was, coming back to consciousness gradually, so he was to be given some food. Now the servants were not ready to serve this man, so she herself had to do all that. Well, we know that Hannah was not even willing to give anesthesia, but ultimately she did, because it was again, you can say, the noble profession of the doctor did not allow her also to leave that man see in pain, and she did whatever she earlier had rejected to do. Similarly here, she had rejected earlier to do any service to him, to serve anything, but she had thought, the servants there at home would follow the commands of theirs because they are the masters. But in this case, it did not turn out to be. And ultimately, uh, Hannah herself had to do all that which she thought she would get done through the servants of the home. And here we get the line that exactly she herself served him, for none of the servants would enter the room. That is, none of the servants actually were ready to do any kind of work for both of them, for especially this fellow American soldier, and therefore that thing was there. Now you see next line, and then there are smaller lines where inverted commas are there. So there is that conversation. Let us focus on that conversation and try to understand what do we get it. Don't be afraid, she begged him softly. How come you speak English? He gasped. I was a long time in America, she replied. So what you know, can anyone answer from here? I'm just waiting for you. I put your question. As you read this conversation, from this conversation, what do you understand? Don't read the line, following that. But what is your opinion? What do you guess? Can I just get any answer from you? I'm waiting. I think somebody of you would surely put your hands on the keyboard and would start typing. What do you understand from this conversation? You don't be afraid, she begged him softly. How come you speak English? He gasped. I was a long time in America, she replied. Any answer if I am to get from you people? I'm still waiting, and it seems that you are out of clue. But anyways, if any answer comes, I'll comment on it. In the meanwhile, I'll give you the explanation. This means the man was coming into his consciousness. He was getting his senses back, and as this was to take place, and Hannah was, regularly going into his room and serving him with some kind of food for his survival. So this man must have heard this woman, or must have seen this woman there. So naturally he felt who that woman was, because the last consciousness for him must have been only when he had fallen down at the seashore, and then afterwards he was operated on. Only he screamed in pain, but it was in his unconscious state. Now when he saw this woman there, that is Hannah, when he saw there, he screamed out something, and then he said, how come you speak English? He gasped. I was a long time in America. Then she said, yeah, I was a long time in America, because when Hannah must have spoken in English, he must have got a doubt where he was, whether he was back in his country. But his thought might have told him he was trying to escape, and in his escape he was shot and he got injury in his back. So how come he was there, in his own country? That is why he puts this question. As he regaining his consciousness, he asked who that woman was and how come she spoke English. Did she give an answer? Well, when she gave an answer, do you think that in order to start a conversation or strike a conversation, she gave this answer? I don't think so. She just gave this answer because the demand of the time was such that she must give an answer. And so did she give that answer. That's it. And so in the following lines, you come to know when Sadao came in the third day of the operation, that is, like this, some days passed, 1 or 2 days, and it's exactly on the third day, when Sadao had gone there, inside that, he found that man sitting over there on his bed. And Sadao then talked to him and told him, this is not correct. You should not, sit down here like that. This will give you more problem. This will give you, more pain, and your wound would not heal. You just lie down. That's what he said. Well, his conversation or his suggestion to this man, it is, you can just say, a mechanical, or it is minimal requirement that any doctor must, complete, because the intention of the doctor just to heal the person when he is there in the pain, and that's what he wanted to do, not more than that. And therefore, you will find a line over there after the third day's line, somewhere in the middle of the page number 36. Lie down, Sadao cried. Do you want to die? Well, this question of Sadao itself is surprising to all of us. Is Sadao somewhere that thought for him was going on? Why should this man survive? And then there was another thought to counter this particular thought, and it was, in spite of all the troubles, in spite of all the difficulties, this man is going to survive anyhow. And therefore, when he might have found this American soldier when he was on the stage of his recovery, sitting down there on his bed, he asked him, "Do you you do not want to recover? Do you still want to die? You were in the dying stage, and we saved you. And why don't you help yourself?" Next line, let us see. He forced the man down gently and strongly and examined the wound. You may kill yourself if you do this sort of thing, he scolded. Now, I would like to go back to the first line where I read the two adjectives here. He forced the man down gently and strongly. These two words are opposite words, and these two together, if you say, it's a figure of speech called antithesis, two opposite words coming together, conveying one particular idea. When he must have put his hand on the body of American soldier just to make him lie down, he just did it initially gently. Why did he do so gently? It is all because of the nature of a doctor to put their hand, the moment the doctor touches us when we go with the kind of problem, I think we find there is a kind of magical thing happening, and all of a sudden we all start feeling by the touch itself I'm going to get healed. That is how the doctor's touch is so gentle. Like that, it must have gone so naturally towards this American soldier. And next, he pressed it strongly. That means he is making him lie down by force. See, I just don't want to be very kind to you. Whatever we are doing is already enough, and nobody would have done. We are risking our lives. Lie down quickly. Maybe this must be there on his mind, and that is why he had mixed feelings. And these two are expressed here in these two words. Well, next paragraph, if we check, what are you going to do with me? The boy muttered. Here, the boy actually refers to American soldier because he must be quite so young. So, is he called here a boy? So, ultimately, he had that fear. What will ultimately happen to me? What they are ultimately going to do of me. That is why he was sitting down and just pondering over it. What their plan is. They are trying to heal me, and once he gets healed, he might think they would give me to the administration or to the forces, and then the forces would do all the torture to me. That is what a thought must be troubling him. So here again, we come to know Of course, there is that urge of survival, but at the same time, the future, if that American soldier imagines of his own, he feels that that would be better. But what to do? His destiny, made him survive. So it is something great for him. So now, coming on to the next line of the same paragraph, are you going to hand me over? Here he means to say, are you ultimately going to give me to the army or to the administration? So the answer would probably yes. I'm just going to hand you over, but before that, you should get all right. Next to next line, I had actually underlined to talk to you. I do not know myself what I shall do with you, he said. I ought to, of course, to give you to the police. You are a prisoner of war. Well, to make his line clear, of belonging to two different countries, Sadao made it quite clear by saying, yeah, ultimately, I am going to give you to the police. Okay, what do you think? What I'm going to leave you like that? It's not so. The same thing, of course, the American soldier must have, thought of. Now, let us see what happens there in the course of the story. Uh, Next paragraph and last line of it, when we read it, a young man closed his eyes and then turned his face to the wall. That is, as he heard from Sadao, he would be given to the police. It's not a thought for him to be consoled of, and so he feels that it is his destiny that he will have to bear more tortures afterward. So he looks at the wall, turns his face towards the wall, stares at it, that is ponderingly, thinking. He looks at the wall and tries to lie down. Coming on to the next page, 37, the paragraph, I'll just read out the important discussion that takes place in the house. It's not true, Sadao said harshly. Americans are our enemies. I have been trained not to let a man die if I can help it. If you can underline this line, page number 37. Americans, it's not true. Americans are our enemies, but I have been trained not to let a man die if I can help it. This line, I think, when the discussion must be going on, with the, you can say, servants and with his wife. So, as to what we are going to do ultimately with this man. So, he must be giving his own argument. His side of argument is, do you think that I do not understand that Americans are my enemies and this American soldier is not my enemy? All Americans are my enemies. But you see what I have learned, what my education has taught me. I am a doctor by profession, and what I have been taught, I have been trained not to let a man die if I can help it. If I see any man, in a condition of pain and agony, so it's my duty to help out that man if I can, and I'm in a position to do so. So that's what exactly I'm doing. This is the argument that you can always quote as an example whenever you are asked, do you believe that Sadao actually was doing his service as a doctor, and he was not, unfavoring his country? He was not a traitor, So the answer, and you can say the evidence from page number 37 would be very useful. Fine. I'm just leaving most of the part because there you will find the discussion of the servants. And now, one of the servants, somewhere in the after the big paragraph, that next paragraph that begins with that young master, same page number 37, after the middle portion of the page, that young master, it's so proud of his skill to save life that he saves any life, the cook said contemptuously. Contemptuously, that is in the tone of making fun, or in the tone of, you can say, satire. Okay, this discussion I want to bring it to your notice. When this must have been said, the line, when we just read and go through the words, each word as we go through, what do we learn is, he, uh, the doctor, that is the young man, is so proud of his skills that he wants to save life, and any life, and on top of it, if I am to say. This means like somebody is, quite good at, you can say, painting. So of course, painting, somebody is interested in, so must take up one canvas and go on painting. Must take some sheet, a big sheet, and can draw on it. If somebody wants a wall, take a wall and do your painting, do your creative work. But if you're doing that printing even in your notebook, that's not right. On doctor's prescription slip, if you're doing that painting, that is not correct. This is the kind of argument you mean to say. What these servants wanted to convey, of course, it is a doctor's profession, and in doctor's profession, they do not want any man, die, or any person die in front of them. But you have to think, who are trying to save? You are trying to save an enemy. That was their argument, and they therefore wanted to emphasize on it. Eh, I'm just reading that line again, and hope you would understand with me. Uh, the spirit of that particular sentence. He is so proud of his skills. This means he feels that he is so smart at doing the work that he can save any life. Of course, he should save any life, but not to the extent that he is posing a threat to himself, to his family, and because of him, the nation would suffer. That is the spirit of this particular sentence. That young master is so proud of his skill to save life that he saves any life. And next paragraph we see the middle line. Now this argument is almost done. Now Yumi's argument we come to know over here. What Yumi wants to convey here, it is the children of whom we must think. Yumi said, what will be their fate if their father is condemned as a traitor? Traitor is someone who betrays one's country. Another word, if I am to write down for you, see, this is patriot, that is one who loves his country and does everything for the sake of country. The opposite word, the antonymous word is this traitor, traitor. And one more synonymous word is there, treasonist, treasonist. Treason is actually cheating, and treasonist is someone who betrays the government, or someone who betrays the country is called treasonist. Um, this vocabulary would be very useful for you all your lifetime whenever you go for any competitive examination. These are some of the words on which either synonym or antonym can be asked. Just pay attention to it. I hope you would be able to remember. So Yumi's concern, what would happen? There, it's not that servants left them immediately, and they were not at all concerned about their master. So long they served for these two masters. So what? Whether they were all not suitable for it, but it was not so. Even their sentiments were attached with the whole family, and especially when it comes for a small kid to be there in the family, there uh, generally you will find the servants of the home, they become mingle with the child, and they find that child to be part of their own family. Naturally, Yumi as had taken care of both the children, so she felt something about the children. What she felt is, these two are of course risking their lives, but do you think that it is only their lives? It is also the lives of these small kids. You see how they suffer after they are considered to be, or after they are judged or proved to be traitors or treasonists. What will happen to the lot of these small kids? They are going to suffer a lot, because both of them may be there in the prison, or they would meet their all punishment, and sufferings would be there for the small kids only. Fine. So, as we just go through some more lines, we will come to one point wherein now the turn in the story, or a dramatic sort of element is going to take place. Like in the movies generally happen. Somebody tries to save someone's life, and then comes the role of it becomes the part of their own survival. Same in the case of Sadao and Hana. It is also their question of survival. Now the difficulties are going to come one by one. messenger, some messenger knocks on their door, and before that, both the servants had quarreled with them and tried to reason out with them, and ultimately both of them, they were to leave. And Hannah gave some amount of money to both the servants and let them go from there. Still, that woman, Yumi, uh, told this girl, Hannah, in case you find that the children are not able to sleep without me, or you find any trouble, you can call me, where do I live. She says, thank you. But somewhere in the heart, she says, yeah, I'm not going to call you anyways. That line also comes over there. And after all this, we find the entry of a messenger there in their house. And that messenger is not an ordinary one. He has come from the general. Hannah then finds herself to be very much shocked and surprised when she sees the face of a messenger, a policeman, or you can say from the armed forces, somebody in that particular uniform appears there in front of her. She gets terrified. The fear, goes right into her nerves and pulse, and she is about to, convey it in the way you would come to know. She what must have thought at that moment, these servants, after going from here, must have straightway gone to the police, and they might have informed that there is a prisoner of war in the house of the doctors. You go and get that fellow. And because of this reason, this America, I mean to say, this fellow messenger must have appeared over there. Now you can understand, if already it is a troubled time, and one after another the calls come, over the phone, what do you feel? That this call may be something about the same news, or something to increase the gravity of that bad news for me, like that you might, and your thoughts would be just like that. Hannah is no different to, this kind of premonitions or this kind of assumptions, and she also has the same kind of thought. She feels it is the work of their servants, their faithful servants. For long, they of course worked, but maybe somewhere those servants, they wanted to be honest to their country, and out of that they must have. But by doing so, now they find their last master, Sadao and Hana, in a kind of trouble. But when she actually confronts the messenger, she comes to know there is something else. The moment something else is conveyed, she consoles herself. She is relieved. The tension, the moment of tension, the anxiety that you get because of some troubled thought, all of a sudden, with a good thought, it gets, quiet up. Now here, the general had sent actually for him for his excruciating pain. I mean to say, the general was in a kind of trouble, and it is for this reason Sadao was kept there in the city. He was not, sent with the forces in order to heal the wounded soldiers there in the battlefield. So the general's pain was increasing intermittently, and he needed some kind of treatment. And at the hands of an expert fellow, such treatment was required. Sadao was therefore, kept there to stay, and that messenger was from the general to tell Sadao that the general was in a difficult time, he is in great pain, and now his services are required. The moment Hannah heard this news, she felt a little relieved. But do you think that the tension was fully gone only with this news? No, because the American soldier still was there in their house, and therefore that cannot be still the news of relief for the complete period of their life. As long as this fellow American fellow lives in their house, they are going to face this kind of trouble, and the tension level would always go on increasing. Similarly, when that message of course came from the general, they were little relieved, and they felt happy at not happy, instead I must say just okay at the news. At least it's not the news from the general or from the police that they must be caught hold of and they must be they must be taken to the police. Nothing of that kind was there. I think enough for today, and we'll continue with the chapter in the next class. I think two more classes we'll need to complete this class, this chapter. This is a very lengthy one, but important at the same time. And in the meanwhile, as we are reading, you just go on noting down important lines, because as we are now going to take your MCQ test, so the details would generally be asked. I think somewhere in the course of explanation, you would also come to know the name of this fellow. Well, this chapter is not there now for this current MCQ test. It will come in some kind of, other test. Well, the portion covered for this test is already informed to you. When you read the chapter, not only the details, but also the gist of the chapter, you try to pay attention to. And I think with this, I finish. So I would request you just to go through the chapter again, underline the things, whatever are important for you. Thank you and good day for today. Bye bye.